No.
This is Rare Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel.
It's Wednesday, the 2nd of October, 2024, and here another edition of the panel with Tony, Browne, Mary, and myself. Good evening, Tony, and welcome.
How you doing, Brad?
Good evening, Mary, and welcome again.
Hi, everyone.
Long time no see, but what was I going to say? Yesterday in this country of ours, in the Dáil, which is our parliament, we had our budget, which was presented by the government parties, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens. Now, the government does this every year. It's an annual event, an annual jamboree, but they're supposed to plan for the future, both infrastructure and spending.
Yes.
But as we know, there's a general election around the corner, so we knew that this budget would be pitched at the short-term gain for people rather than long-term planning. And that was one of the biggest disappointments of the budget for me, in that they had plenty of money to do a lot more for a lot of people as well. But people now on the 25 grand to 40 grand will gain €360. But if you're on 100 grand upwards, you'll gain nearly €1,000 in the tax. So you had the same old merry-go-round again, which is very, very disappointing. For my own case, I got the equivalent of €2 a day from them, from the government, which will buy 2 litre of milk in Dun stores a little. I got €2 a day against my cost of living, which I'm supposed to be grateful for, grateful for the crumbs, from the crumbs of the table of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens, and go away and lick your wounds and be quiet about it. Tony, what did you think of the budget yourself?
Well, some aspects of it I thought were okay, mind you. I'll get an increase on my non-contributory pension. I can't think this minute now how much it is.
€12, which is €2 a day.
Yeah, that's not too bad, I suppose, in one sense, There's a lot of people out there. The only people that will really benefit from that would be people on a disability. They're getting a lump sum payment. I mean, they'll be laughing all the way. And some have done well. I suppose really what annoyed me about the whole thing was they were talking in billions. And it means nothing to 99% of people.
No.
The figures they were giving out, it means nothing.
No.
And anyway, they're only reading out. I was watching, what's his name, Jack Chambers.
Yeah.
And he was reading out. He was very bad in reading his speech anyway, I thought. And he was reading it. His face was constantly down reading it. It just proves he didn't write it. A civil servant wrote that for him. And he didn't even know what was coming up. But as regards the increases, then they went down the tax. The cigarettes, I couldn't care less what to put on cigarettes.
Yeah.
I also put on, they put on money on petrol, which I thought was kind of stupid thing to do.
They put carbon tax rate on petrol and diesel, yeah.
Yeah, I thought
that the minimum wage is to increase by 80 cents to €13.50 an hour. How in God's name do they expect anybody to live on that? And there's people on disability allowance, on social welfare, who aren't even on €13.50 an hour, and they expect.
Well, the most disappointing thing for me, Mary, was I thought that the pension for both contributory and non-contributory pension, that they could have given €100 a week lift up to the pensioners, which would bring their rate up to around €400 a week, because it was 7 years ago, there was a study done whereby they did agree in principle that the pensioners would get a rise for 35%, their income would be 35% of the average industrial wage. So it's up now to 30%, which I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying that if they expect the person who's working for 40 years to live on €300 a week, in this day and age, with the cost of living, it's a really, really huge stretch for people. With the cost, we've the highest cost for energy in Europe. The highest cost they're going to give us for towards the electricity is going directly to the company. That means that those companies that supply electricity have no incentive to reduce the cost to the consumer because they're getting free money from the government. That's what they're getting to keep their prices high. That to me makes no sense.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you're on disability allowance or social welfare, and you get a part-time job, or you get a job, you're allowed to earn, oh, it's pittance before you're taxed. And it's criminal, because by the time whatever part-time earnings you earn, plus your social welfare or your disability allowance, brings you less than 500 euros a week. They're keeping you constantly down because you're taxed on 50% of what you earn part-time.
Yeah,
Tony,
and
you're
that,
going to have to tell them again.
no, it's all right. No, 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 leave it go, leave it go.
No,
Anyway,
look, it's
anyway, that's fine. So what we're saying is, because a massive lost opportunity to do something meaningful for a lot more people. Now, the 250 credit for electricity goes to everybody, including the people that don't need it.
Well, that happened the last time with
Yeah,
the gas money, the money they gave, the 150 euros. There are people that I personally know that didn't need that.
yeah.
And it's even admitted it to me. And that was crazy, giving it to everybody. Then it's difficult to take it down and not to give it to everybody, I suppose, who I suppose it's easier for them to give it to everybody.
But
But there are, that's like the children's allowance.
it would be
There are
easy done. Everybody has a PRSI number. All the TDs in the doll will get the credit, will get the tax credit. They don't need it.
no, they don't. Well,
They
for
all have
them,
PRSI number. They all have computers, so it'd be very easy to target these things.
you'd wonder, and then it's so easy just to do the whole thing together and give it to everybody. I know that. But like getting back to the costs of other little things that they put on, we mentioned the money going on the petrol and the diesel, and that is it 80, what you say, 80 something cents on the workers.
80 cents for the minimum wage is brought up to €13.50 an hour.
I'd love to know where they got that figure from. Why 80 euros? Why on 80 euros? Why 8 cents, isn't it? Is it
Yeah,
cents?
yeah.
88.
80 cents, it brings it up to 13.50.
But who is the brain box that came up with that? What annoys me is there's nobody been mentioned as the person that thought of it. It's just put down to the TDs, but it's the
Yeah,
civil servants should be named and
yeah.
ask him would he like that if he'd a son or a daughter on that. But I suppose that'll never happen.
now. Can I just read this? You can work and earn up to 165 euros if you're on disability allowance, which is 250 euros, or social welfare, 250 euros. You can earn 165 euros a week after paying PRSI, pension contributions, and union dues without your DA payment being affected. If you earn more than 165 euros a week, 50% of your earnings between 165 and 675 will not be taken into account in the DA means test. Any earnings over 375 are assessed in full.
Here you go. Well, you're certainly not.
End
Yeah.
up working, you still end up working for less than 500 euros a week. And that's below the minimum wage.
Yeah, but what fascinates me about the whole thing is the fact, first of all, I said it at the beginning, they were talking in billions yesterday.
Yeah.
Most couldn't care less about billions. All they want to know is how much you're going to have every week yourself. That's the
Yeah,
first thing. Then
yeah.
on top of that, there were two people talking yesterday. What's his name? Pascal, I don't know who. To me, can't even speak properly anyway. But that's another story. And then you had your man, Jack Chambers. Two of them talking. For years, you had only a minister for finance, and he
Yeah.
went. But no matter what said about these people, who is voting for these people? That's what fascinates me.
Well,
Well, I have to say, I
in the last local elections,
think
90% of the votes in Shannon with the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. That's who's voting for them.
I think Pascal O'Donoghue is a great speaker. I mean, he's one person who can stand there and deliver. Yes, he has a slight speech impediment, but he can stand there and speak without any notes whatsoever, and he's engaging with the audience. And I've been at a few things that he spoke at, and everyone was impressed with him at how he can deliver his speech without a note, and that's pretty impressive. It means that you either know what you're talking about, or you.
Tell me about it. When you see a person looking down and reading notes, to me that's wrong. They shouldn't be allowed.
I'm old enough to remember when Charlie High was Minister for Finance, and when Bertie Ahern was the leader of the party, and this was what we call a giveaway budget, so-called give away your own money give away your own money for you to spend it yourself. But with this all in all together, totality, I would say that it was a very, very disappointing when we had such a massive surplus to give. I didn't hear any thing in the budget. Now, I'm not saying it's not in it, because I didn't get a chance to read it all, all 200 pages or whatever it was, about paying off some of the money off our national debt, which is very, very, very considerable altogether, There was no mention of it in the budget either, But an awful lot of things that concern Irish citizens is the weather. So to cheer you up, here we are.
Why is it so bad, the weather?
Jesus, I don't know, sure. The whole thing is upside down at the moment, I think, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely mad.
Huh?
Yeah.
Upside down?
Yeah. Who's behind it all, I wonder?
No, says the man above.
And why is he so angry?
I don't know. I have no idea. I suppose it's just, it's all this global stuff, everything. I don't really know.
I know, he's livid. And he's going to flood the whole world.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. End of the world 2030.
Probably is getting his own back.
Yeah.
Putting too many things up in the space. The space wasn't meant for objects like what's in it now.
No. And they are giving us the bad weather.
I'd say so, yeah. Something to do with it anyway.
Why is it so bad?
Some guy having a vendetta on people in Navan.
Yeah.
Some mad just want to kill him.
Right.
Yeah.
Why Navan?
Why not?
Why not Kells?
Too far away.
It's just handy, it's just out the road.
Just down the road, directly underneath the sky and all that.
It's dreadful.
Yeah.
It'll blow and the wind, it would blow the whiskers off a baldy face down.
It'd be bad in this country, but if you were a duck, it'd be all right. Or a goose.
Why is the weather so bad?
Why does it always rain on me?
That was our talk about the weather. I suppose it's one thing Irish people talk about the weather all the time. I think one of the reasons is because it's so bad. I don't know. That's what I guess,
No.
But
people even talk about the weather during the summer. If you have a fine day, they still talk about it being a hot day. People said it's too hot, And it's a great conversation starter.
We're obsessed in this country with the weather, no matter what condition it is. One of the questions we'll ask somebody is, what's the weather like where you are?
For people who are looking at this program, both Mary and Tony are in the road in Limerick City, near the city. I'm here in Shannon. But I got thinking about the street names in Limerick the other night, and I was trying to find out how did they come about or who they named after, And like Ann Street. Two Limerick people now look at me here on the program. Do they know where Ann Street is in Limerick?
Actually, a lot of people don't know where Ann Street is.
Yeah.
Which is a very prominent street at one time. Ann Street was. When it was owned by the Earl of Limerick, had full title to it. Because funnily enough, I was reading last night for about 4 hours last night. People said what this to be doing. I was going through all the leases and who owned land in Limerick at different times.
Yeah.
And the people had the freehold, of course, was the main thing to have. But you had £20 voters and you had £40 voters. But like that, and you couldn't vote, of course, unless you had a freehold. And the people that had the property, it's hard to believe that they could lose so much. You know, the other Limerick, on the whole of Limerick anyway, and then he sold it off in various lots over the years. But getting back to Ann Street, an awful lot of people wouldn't know what Ann Street is. She tell people where it is. There's still a few houses left in Ann Street.
Yeah, one of the things they were saying that I was reading about Ann Street was that there was a lady, Anne Rankin.
Yeah.
Rankins, they owned quite a few of the properties on Ann Street in
the mid-19th century.
And so hence Anne Rankin gave her first name to the street. I don't know how true that is or not. I don't know, but that was one of the explanations for it.
Yeah, no, I doubt that, because there's two streets there that we know are called after a family called Untanks. The Untanks were obviously they were God, I can't think of the Puritans, like, and they had a big dyeing works down in John Square, the Untanks. Yeah. And there's two streets called after them. That's Catherine Street and Thomas Street, and nobody.
Well, I was going to ask you, so Thomas Street is called after the Untanks.
Thomas Untank, yeah. Unthank. They have a huge vault inside in St. John's graveyard down in St. John's Square. But the Untanks are a very prominent family in Limerick, but unfortunately they're all died out now. Well, in Limerick they've died out. There could be some of them. There were two sisters there playing for years, the Untanks, two girls in England playing in a group. I think they were just playing together, the two of them. And they were, whether they're relatives of the Untanks in Limerick, I don't know.
It has to be, sir. There's such a
The last woman I know with the name was a woman that died out in out near, oh God, I can't think of the village there, on the way before you come to Killaloe, there on the main road, out where God, what's the name of the pub was there that Tony Ryan owned. Do you remember there's a pub there called the Coopers, and across the road, can't think of that in the village there now. Anyway, there was
John Bradford, no, too far back.
No, on the main road there, just before you turn off for Killaloe. It's kind of cut off now if you're on
the crusher, no.
No, and it's there on the main road, and it's anyway. There was a woman lived there. Her name is a funny name, Annie Untank. It's like a tongue twister. Yeah. She died 3 years ago. I don't think she had any family, because I went looking to find out, was she any relative of these Untanks in Limerick.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm after looking up a page, the A to a Z of street names in Limerick, and it said Ann Street was named after Anne Rankin, who owned the 5 houses in the street in the mid-19th. She's named as the owner of Griffith Valuation circa 1850.
Oh, that could be right now. It's a Griffith Valuation if it's in that. I never heard that now, to be honest with you. I don't know everything, but like that, so most of the streets in Limerick we know who they're called after.
And Rutland Street. Who would that be called after now? Rutland Street.
That's an easy one. That some of the streets, most of them are called after the Lord Lieutenants of the country. Like
should we be changed? Tony, should we be changing the names of those streets then?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They're part of history. You can't.
I mean, we don't want English oppressors.
Why not?
Streets,
I mean, you wouldn't have a thing in this city. I mean, Victorian Limerick wouldn't. So
you Rutland called after some English chap.
The Duke of Rutland. There is Rutland.
You wouldn't have Victorian Limerick. Only
but some of those dukes and earls never set foot in Limerick.
Doesn't matter.
Well, he would have, as Lord Lieutenant, he probably did. He probably had graced the city on one occasion. But the only one that I don't like really, well, most of them were changed anyway over the years. Straight from Sackville Street, in
Dublin,
I'm losing my thought.
How many places did they want to change to John F. Kennedy?
Henry Street.
That's Henry Hastange, who was a brother-in-law, of course, of the Earl of Limerick. They called 2 streets after him.
Hearthstone Street.
Hastange, yeah. People often refer to it as Hearthstone. It's Hastange. And it's and also you have the one I would object to is Bedford Row.
The Lord, the Duke of Bedford, yeah.
No, he never had any interest in Limerick, and the family are still there, of course. He was one of them in the start of the one of the first, what let's say, opened his house to the public in England. I can't think of the name of the house now. It's in Oxfordshire. And his son was often on television. The last Duke of Bedford anyway lived, I think he lived in France, the south of France, or Guernsey or one of them places, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But he didn't.
When you look at what was done to Cruises Street, to Cruises Hotel, knocked to the ground. You look at what they did to Penny's, or what was Cannock's, was just magnificent at the front of it. They took that away. They wanted at one stage to take away Browne Thomas and put a fountain there where people could sit down and move Browne Thomas. I mean, if you left it up to the county council in Limerick to decide what to do with the city, there wouldn't be a church in
Who's Cruises Street named after?
Let me finish, please.
Yeah,
I've tried on several occasions, and whether it's the delay in it, but there wouldn't be a part of Georgian Limerick or our history left. It's like obliterate the monuments, take away the monuments, take away everything that is a symbol of Britain out of this.
Oppression.
You can say what you like, Pat, but they've replaced it with buildings that have. St. John's School is an example of it. 4 times they've had to rebuild that school, and the convent would have lasted another 200 years, the same as the cathedral. They just want to be modern, and they just want to get rid of any trace of history. You're not going to obliterate the oppression, as you call it, by taking away the buildings. That just is absolutely defeatist.
And who was Cruises Street called after, Tone?
Edward Cruz, the man that owned the hotel. Cruises Hotel.
Where was he from? Was he in Limerick, man?
No, so that's the Costas and Munchin. Have you ever heard of the Costas and Munchin?
Yeah, I did.
Natives will perish, strangers will flourish.
Yeah.
It's true that most of the businesses were owned by Blow-ins anyway over the years. You know, William Todd, who came in and started the department store there. George Cannock on the other side. They were all people, even the Roaches. They were from Cork.
That was a mate store.
And all the shops that the big businesses were all owned by people just came to Limerick. And that still applies today. You know,
and what about Alphonsus Street?
Mount Alphonsus Street.
That used to be known as the Clyde Hill before they called it Alphonsus Street.
That's up to St. Alphonsus, isn't it?
Yeah, but the Clyde, that was the old Clyde Hill going down to the Clyde Shipping Company.
Yeah.
Which is still over. There's a building on the corner there where they're after building a new Lidl, or should I call them Lidl, on the corner there. If you're going down Alphonsus Street, there's a building on the corner there, but we luckily was left alone. And I think there's written over that the Clyde Shipping Company is written over that.
It is. I know the building.
My aunt always referred to it as the Clyde Hill. When you say talking, go down the Clyde Hill. And then a lot of old names were retained for a while, but they all eventually died out. I was reading only last night, though, again, on Gary Owen. I never knew it was a new name. It comes in as something else now in old leases. Before they called it Gary Owen. Crotta, I think it is just pronounced the townland of Crotta. See, all these names are all new names that come in. And even where I am, here in Ballinacurra, is divided in 3. And the only one that survived, there were 3 Commonwealth officers there, and who got the land. And the only one that survived was Richard Weston. Weston's name survived.
Weston, oh yeah.
Tony, the history of the word Garryowen is a transliteration of the Irish Gara Owen, the Garden of Owen, and relates to the association in the 12th century between St. John's Church and the Knights Templar, whose house in Limerick was dedicated to John the Baptist. And you have John the Baptist School.
And where was the Knights Templars' house?
Knights Templars, well, the Knights Templars have gone a long time. They're gone since the end of the 1300s, the Knights Templars. When they were band altogether. We know very little. Well, there's written about them, you know. They were a very powerful group, they were very powerful. And people believed in them, you know what. Then you're different. Now we're getting into a rant here now. You're different knights then. The most famous one was called the Knights Hospitallers, who founded the Abbey outside the hospital, which we know today, the village of Hospital.
Oh,
But
yeah.
with lots of branches of the Knights. And you couldn't
Killeedy,
there
County
was
Limerick.
a bloodline, and they were all aristocracy anyway, all these, and then they were accused of satanic things and a few other things, and they were banned anyway. The Knights were. But you had lots of Knights, what would they call them? Houses they had. They were very powerful, they were the Knights. But they're gone anyway. But they were set up to defend the Holy Land.
Yeah.
You know,
Portuguese
Well,
are considered to be
if you ever have a chance to visit Israel, there's huge connections with the Knights Templars dotted around the country itself. Very, very interesting.
Pat Killeedy in County Limerick, just a short distance away from the ruins of St. Ita's Monastery in Killeedy, are the ruins of an historic castle known as the Castle of Clean Glass, though it's much later structure. And that's actually a ruin to the Knights Templar.
That is rubbish. They don't know that. There's just a lot of places around supposed to be connected with Knights. But these tower houses were built much later. The tower houses didn't come in until after the 1400s, the 1500s. They were much newer. But then you could be arguing this now till the cows come home.
Well, you're here. You're watching at the panel with Mary, Tony, and myself. We're here every Wednesday night, and we appreciate all your viewership particularly on our Facebook page, which is fantastic. Around 800 or 900 people look in, so we are obliged for that. Press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel, and it'll be very much appreciated. We'll take one of our own people now.
A lot of people write in and ask me, say, why do I drink during the show? And is it because I need the drink to get through the show? And I can tell you here now, actually, the reason I drink is because it does, sitting here for 45 minutes, get very hot. There's a tremendous amount of lights. And the only reason I have the drink is basically to keep cool. I want to make it quite clear that I am not reliant on alcohol in any way to get me right through this. Get away from that! You think I get through the show? Duck shooters. Drunks are great characters. Duck shooting. In the hide. Very early in the morning. Very cold. No sign of the duck. I'll have a little drop of rum to keep warm. And still no sign of the duck. And I have another little drop. And still no sign of the duck. And another and to the duck. And one big, fat, lonely, dirty duck goes across the sky. All by himself. Flap. Quack, and the drunk picks up his shotgun and goes, ba-doom, ba-doom, and they'll go into the lake. And his friend's there and he said, that is what I call great shooting. He said, well, you're bound to hit one out of a whole flock. And he said, Ducky, go and get the ducky. And the dog, instead of jumping into the water and swimming to the duck, runs across the top of the water. Picks up the duck and comes back, and the fellow says, do you notice there's anything strange about that dog? He said, yeah, he doesn't swim. There are two drunks. One, very good fisherman, and the other has never fished in his life. And he said, what do I do? What do I do to fish? He said, well, you get the hook and you put the bait on the hook. And he does. I said, well, what do I do now? He says, you cast it out into the river. And he said, what do I do? He said, just wait. And after about 20 minutes, he gets a bite. He said, well, what do I do now? He says, reel it in. And And he reels in so far, the fish is rammed up to the top of the... And he said, what do I do now? He says, you climb to the top of the rod and stab it to death.
There was a wonderful Dave Allen, and of course, as you know, he passed away there 7 or 8 years ago now, Dave. And I know one of his, Dave was a time in O'Mahony. Dave Allen was time in O'Mahony, and one of his nephews lives up in Innister, you know, a good friend of mine. But anyway, there's Dave Allen, he's some magnificent stories. I suppose he would be...
No, we were never kind of used to Dave Allen, really, you know. That it's mainly England to us, and we didn't have his show here at the time. You know,
no, you didn't know. Yeah, I saw him over in England, but I mean, Dave Allen was, I suppose, he was the first stand-up comedian. They attribute the fact that he was a stand-up comedian, a solo act, which was unusual at the time, and he'd sit down in his chair and...
But he also had a beautiful voice, and he also went against the grain of the Irish, kind of drunken Irish leprechaun type, Shanachie type comedy. That you know, of course, he had the drink. The drink was always associated with him. But I was telling you last week, Tony, when we were talking, that I saw Dylan Moran, who's more modern. He's from Navan. And he's I saw him as being the modern day Dave Allen, because you know, I'd have been young when Dave Allen was there, but when I saw him, I thought that's so familiar to Dave Allen, and I put a piece up here, so we'll play it here.
And you never forget that shit, you know, it never goes away. But this idea of the good life being elsewhere does possess people. And I suppose a lot of people now, because Europe is freed up and everything, people move within Germany. A lot of, within Europe, rather. I mean, I said Germany, but I meant Europe. I don't know why I said Germany. But loads of people did go to Germany, actually, recently, for the World Cup. A lot of English people went over to make uninformed, prejudicial remarks about German people and Germany. Totally ignorant and bigoted. Know nothing about it, but they feel free to insult it. Because they're English and they're bigoted. And because Germany is a toilet. A truly dreadful place. Nobody ever has any reason to go there. It is a totally dreadful place. And that's just the way it is. Because if you're talking to, you know, a modern... I went there. On the same weekend I went to Australia and California. And it's a... You see, the thing is, you're talking to a modern, nice, affable German person, and they're saying to you something like, you know, well, it's a critical time now for Germany within Europe, also globally. Economically, we're pretty good, we have been better, but we're very vibrant in the theatre and arts and so on. All the time you listen to this, you're thinking, Hitler. There's a Hitler when you did the Hitler thing with Hitler. Hitler. And the people look like pork. You can't get away from that. They do. They look like pork scratchings on a towel. And you can't eat the food because you would have to complain about it, and that would mean speaking German. It's a disgusting language. Nobody should ever speak it. Even Hitler was vegetarian. That's how bad the food is. And you couldn't speak German because it's a horrible sound. It sounds like typewriters eating tinfoil being kicked down the stairs. And somebody is talking to you in German, they're saying, and you think, what is happening to you from behind? How can we make it stop? Please go away. Now that's not prejudice, that's just observation. And the thing is, English people are very bigoted, though, I find. I say that as a neutral Irish person. You know, Ireland wasn't involved in the war at all. Ireland's reaction in the war was to go, what? There's a what on? Sorry, what? I'm not dressed. What is it? What? You want a what? You need what? What is it? A war? Oh, it's all over. Is it? Oh, we'll go. Yeah, what do you want? And not very useful. But English people are quite prejudiced, I think. Because I've noticed this recently, because I have lots of English friends who are very dear to me, and I realized recently, when you're talking to an English person and you're from elsewhere, they share with you. They do a lovely thing when they're talking to you. They impersonate you as they're talking to you. Somebody says to me, do you want another drink then? You know, in that English voice that suggests they're just about to die at any moment. Do you want another drink? I would. I'd love another drink. That'd be great. That'd be grand. Thank you. They do you. They go, I would, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. That'd be lovely. What the fuck are you doing? Laughing. It's just...
That's Dylan Moore. And
he makes fun of every nationality. He starts with the Germans and the English, and the Italians get it. The French don't get, and the Swiss. He has a go at them as well, and the Australians. You know, but I just, when I see him, he's just stage persona. Reminds me all the time of a modern day Alan. Dave Allen. I don't know why I was going to say Dennis.
Is he alive?
No, he's alive. He lives in Scotland.
Never heard of him, and I never saw him. And I tell you, after watching that, I've no desire ever to see him again.
Well, there was a series on BBC called.
He's very funny. He's very funny. He was in the movie Notting Hill with Julia Roberts. He was the thief inside the bookstore. He's very, very funny.
And there was a comedy series called Black Books, where he was the owner of a bookshop. He was one of the characters in it. There was a good couple of characters in it. Quite a good run, and it was quite good as a comedy.
Navan. I think he's from Navan anyway.
He didn't say anything to make me laugh anyway, I tell you.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a funny sense of humour, I don't know. But
No,
I
I
didn't
know.
laugh at anything he said. Anyway, I thought he was fairly bigoted himself now. Some of the things
Yeah, but that was what it was meant to sound like. He said at the end, that's not bigoted, that's just observation. In other words, he was being sarcastic. The Irish couldn't possibly be bigoted. We're just observing. The British are bigoted, but the Irish are just observing. That was the.
Do you know who had a very wicked sense of humour was Brendan Behan? If you ever heard interviews about him, you know.
Yeah, he was born in Navan in 1971.
That's Dylan Moore, yeah. But Brendan Behan was very funny.
He was, but he too drinking. He was talking a lot of old rubbish and he drinking him. You know, that's the only thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, he did quite a few interviews when he was drunk.
Getting back to the budget, I was watching yesterday while there were two sitting behind your man, what's his name, Chambers, while he was talking. One of them now didn't move, but the other one was nodding like very serious, a donkey. She was nodding.
Was she on the edge, the left, as you looked at it?
And I looked at those on the left to right. She was on the right. She was in pink.
Well, that was Hildegard Doctor was on the left, and your one. What's her name?
Did you say it was on?
Hildegard Nocton.
Was on the left.
Hildegard. Her hair would be like kind of a.
Yeah, she's from Galway. She's a TD from Galway.
Helmet, but no, next to her.
Is that an old English name, Hildegard?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know where she got that name. You know, maybe I wonder where they got it. You would not be calling her in from the door, would you, Hildegard?
I like it.
You know, it's an awful name.
Pat met her and was very impressed with her.
I met her at the conference. And
he said, I'm looking for a woman. Are you free?
You think you could take off her hair? You know, she'd have
she's.
Next to her was nothing and everything. And
that was Emer Higgins.
Never saw her in my life. Who is she?
Yeah, she's a TD for. I know she's from the Gale of Fianna Fáil. She was one of many.
Can I just say that the name Hildegard is derived from the old German word Hild, and meaning a war or a battle. And the name Hildegard is sure to inspire a little warrior in your bundle of joy.
Battle axe, is it?
Because it's the meaning is.
Christendom anyway had notions. They had big notions anyway of the Christendom with a name like that.
A battle or a garden is what Hildegard means, and it dates back to the 8th century.
I sleep a lot better in my bed tonight, don't know that.
No.
But listen,
you're fierce and feminine. Anyone that's Hildegard is fierce and feminine.
Oh yeah. I wonder. Anyway, but your man Chambers, they should stop just being allowed to take phones into the doll anyway. You know,
they have to. I disagree with you there. having
They're
worked for it,
constantly looking at phones.
yeah, but having
Everybody's
worked for
looking at
TV, I
phone
see the
is not
way they,
concentrating. No, if you're looking at a phone, you're not listening to what's
you're
going
not
on.
listening,
You're
Tony.
concentrating.
She's constantly, or he's constantly getting up to date information from their parliamentary secretary that
That's
might be relevant.
That's not what they're paid for. They're paid for to go into the Dáil and debate issues and listen. They're
I
not doing that.
understand, but if something breaks suddenly, they need to know about it immediately.
Breaks? What do you mean break suddenly?
Well, when you look at what happened in the English Parliament, and the minute it broke that the Queen died, they knew instantly because it was able to get through the
There's
channels
nothing like that in this country. So
and
who's going to die here?
announce
They're all
Well,
in the Dáil. Might
well,
be here.
our president might pass away.
Yeah, but
God
they get the
forbid.
news at 1 o'clock and they want to talk news, won't they? Or somebody run out to the Dáil chamber and tell it out to the
But
bar
they're
and tell them.
behind. They need to be in contact. In
No.
fairness, they need to be up to date with anything breaking suddenly.
There's half them there that couldn't care less what's going on. And we
Well,
know
now,
that.
I mean, the war in the Middle East is getting more serious by the day.
Yes.
With Lebanon
Yes.
and Iran becoming involved in now is getting very serious, and it
Yeah.
goes to show that America doesn't have the influence anymore in the world to do anything about anything.
Pat is interviewing Guy Jones, who's the president of the Lebanese Cultural Foundation, the Irish Lebanese Cultural Foundation. Guy is coming on the show with him in a week's time or something. But
Yeah.
luckily, Guy's mother is out of the Lebanon.
Well, I phoned him to find out about, because I knew his mother was still back in the Lebanon, but she's after they got her out of Lebanon and she's living down on Kilkenny, so she's safe, which is good for that. But there's quite a substantial Lebanese community in Ireland, and they would be concerned with escalation of the war. Of course, we have an Irish contingent under the United Nations flag in Lebanon as well, on duty over there. I don't know what kind of a role they'll play now. It's very hostile, to say the least.
All the Irish soldiers are in a bunker.
But that's what we were saying today. I don't see the purpose anymore of Irish soldiers being sent out to other countries. And my own cousins went out there.
We don't even need an army in this country. We don't need an army. It's costing a fortune. For what?
We
don't need an army in this country.
Commandants in the Irish army, and they both went to Lebanon. But
They went to the Lebanon.
They went to the Lebanon. But the thing about it is, I don't see the purpose of it sticking your nose in other people's countries and, leave.
Well, the United Nations peacekeeping force were initially sent into the Lebanon way back in the early 70s to mediate or to stop as a buffer between the Fallujah, Hezbollah, and all the other groups that are fighting there, to protect Christians and the different groups that are in Dublin, in Lebanon.
I feel sorry for all the soldiers going out there, and they're stuck now inside in bunkers, and they're Irish lads. And what can they do? They don't, they're not trained. I don't think they're trained to the extent that they could keep up with Hezbollah or keep up with to the standards that other armies are trained to.
I remember there was a fellow be on the television all the time back in the 70s. Wally Jumbrat. He was over a group called the Phalangists, I remember. But I think he lived in Canada now. He would have to live in Canada.
He was one of the leaders of one of the factions over there. That's true.
Yeah. And I remember he went off. He was interviewed afterwards. He's living in Canada. The way you could just take off like that and let them all do what they like. As soon as they get a chance to go, they'll go. That happens.
Sadly, you had a lot of people like that. You had Yasser Arafat became a multi-millionaire out of leading the PLO. He was an Egyptian, as you know. He's from Egypt. He's an Egyptian Arab, and he had a huge what let's say, property in Paris, in the middle of Paris, and
But
he died.
that's not spoken of, you see. That's the problem.
There's the
That's
same
what
with
people
it's the
don't
same with.
talk about that.
It was the same with Zelensky,
I was about to say. I mean, Zelensky has property all over the place.
Zelensky's property all over the world. Recently, his wife bought a Lamborghini. It is reported in the press. I know how true it is. You know how much a Lamborghini is? Is a couple of €100,000.
Price of a house.
I know she's going to be driving around in the Lamborghini. Maybe it's just because she could buy it. I don't know. And we are giving money. We gave money recently again to Ukraine, our country,
I'm a great
Ireland.
believer in every country look after its own,
So our country, Ireland,
and then help others.
the present government has given quite a lot of money to Ukraine. So in effect, Ireland is supporting Ukraine in the war against Russia financially. And then you ask them where the money is going. Well, they say it's only going for band-aids and bandages. But how do you know? How do you know they're not buying weapons with it? How do you know? No one knows.
But that reminds me of something that's now akin to that. It's like you see these fellas on the television, the chief executive of, it could be, I don't know, for Tokla, let's say, or it could be somewhere else. Are these fellas being paid? And if they're not, well and good, if they're living off their
They
pensions.
are being paid. The
No, they
chief
are being paid.
are being paid.
How are they being paid?
The chief executive officers are always paid.
There's a full-time staff with Trócaire and Concern and all those, and you can read the annual reports
It's only
online.
after their payment, their
And
fees, that the money dwindles.
and there's a place in Dublin, I'm sure you've heard of it, called Stewart's Hospital, Stewart's, which looks
Yeah.
after disabled. They are more or less insolvent. They have to be bailed out by the HSE.
Yeah.
There's a huge article and a huge investigation going on there at the moment. That for all of you who want to know, I was reading it. I have it here on the table in front of me. At the Mail on Sunday, last Sunday, I was just flabbergasted at the wanton waste of money again by yet another charity.
But Pat, you talked there earlier about Ireland's involvement in wars, indirect involvement in wars. We've been saying for centuries that we're independent and that we're neutral and blah blah blah. We're never neutral.
No, we're not neutral.
One, you can't be neutral in war. Neutrality only makes you an observer at best, complicit at worst. But when we allowed American planes to land in Shannon Airport without even checking what was on board, and they on their way to fight wars in other countries, we were not independent. We were complicit. Because one, we didn't check what was in there. We didn't care. Our government didn't care. Why should it? It's America. Why should they care?
I mean, America have killed more people in the world since the Second World War than any other country on the planet.
But they should have checked. No planes should be allowed through Shannon to go off and potentially kill human beings.
How long was America in Afghanistan? And they had to get out in the end. I mean, and Johnny, you remember the Vietnam War. America were in the Vietnam War for years and years, where young, poor people from America were fodder for the North and South Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, and there was thousands of them killed, and they had to leave it as well.
And Muhammad Ali was had a conscience. He refused to go. He said, "I'm not going to be responsible for killing other brown and black children who did nothing wrong to me."
I think he was really afraid. I think he was afraid.
He wasn't afraid. He was a prisoner of. They were going to put him to prison.
He took a principled stand. What a lot of people didn't do, he did. In fact, he lost the best years of his career.
And he threw his Olympic medal into the river, and they only gave it back to him many, many years later. And he said, "I will not go and kill another black or brown child who has done nothing, or man who has done nothing to me." And he was right. I mean, as a pacifist, I think he was absolutely right.
Well, he was. It was proved right in the end, and that it was a futile war. futile war. But we're not really a neutral country.
We're not.
It's political expediency to say we are when it comes up for discussion. But here where I live in Shannon, I mean, there's protests regularly at Shannon Airport here, and most of them are not reported at all in the press. Most of them get no coverage. But I see them. We see them around here. We see when they gather. We see the people marching up, and they're not left up to the airport obviously anymore. They're
It's
stopped.
not the refueling. It's not the refueling that bothers me of American planes. It's the fact that nobody goes on board the plane and checks to see what is being carried. God only knows what equipment is being carried on those planes, and the soldiers are going around the duty free and around the shop, because I've been on many flights now out of the country.
Well, I know in all armies, including the Irish Army, when you join the Irish Army, you're given a rifle when you go in there. There's a serial number on that rifle. That stays with you until you leave the army, or in the case of the American Army, or until you're killed in battle. So
last Wednesday now, we went to visit Sarsfield Barracks.
Oh yeah.
And we had a good out there now with two good speakers, you know.
Yes.
We showed us the museum up there and brought us round and showed us where Private, what's his name, was executed. Just Keane, where he was executed, you know. And
why was he executed?
It's a long story now. He was accused of being involved with the IRA, and he was in the army here at the time.
When was that? Was that in the 20s?
I should know, and I can't think, because I could be with his grave and all where he's buried, because I was there before. But he was executed in the barracks. They executed him inside there, they did. He was court-martialed and executed inside. And people don't realise there's a church in there. We were in the church as well last Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And then they brought us into the bar where they give us tea afterwards, which I suppose was nice, you know.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
That we brought in. But having said that, we couldn't, it was too dark, you see. It got dark and there's a lot of things we couldn't see. But there's the class distinction in the army, I think, is terrible. That it's hard to believe that I'm nearly 90% correct now that you can do a university, if you were never in the army, you can do a university degree, and you should know this, and you can come in as a captain.
Yeah, you can.
Well, you come in as a first lieutenant.
That's crazy.
The first lieutenant, and if you just join the army as an army Joe Soap, like I did, you come in as a one-star private. Private. You come in as a first lieutenant, then you go on to a second lieutenant, then to a captain in the army. There's good. It's a good life for people who are interested in that. You know, it's a very good. I believe myself that we should have national service for.
I agree 100% with that.
All 17 and 18-year-olds should do national service for 2 years, and that would, I say, would be a fantastic training ground for people to learn self-discipline and.
But why do you come in as a captain or whatever you said, right?
Because you're educated.
You're experience in the army.
But you're educated to a certain level that you can command.
You know, good firing a gun and jumping under the ground and all that.
No, a lot of people. I mean, there is. I wouldn't say it's class distinction. What I would say is for discipline. For discipline,
they don't even eat together or anything, you know.
No, well, for discipline in the force, you have to have separation. And you have to have regard and respect for people. And so therefore, if you ever go into battle, you know, you rely on each other and you rely on the people who are on top, who are leading you as well, you know, you rely on them.
What about the fella that has the big sword? He'd be marching up and down with a big sword. And we don't have enough to invade this country.
The barrack sergeant major, yeah.
You see the fella, I mean, that's ridiculous, going around with this sword and walking up and down, and the fella's supposed to be looking at him. He's more looking at him now more than I am. Just terrible.
He'd be a link between the non-commissioned and the commissioned officers. You have the NCOs, non-commissioned officers, and you have commissioned officers in the army. So he'd be a link between both, you know?
I don't know, they have special parking spaces and all up there, they had. I was
Yeah,
shocked.
I know when I joined when I joined the 4th Battalion in Collins Barracks in Cork, at 17 I was at the time. By God, the first week or two was a massive shock to the system.
But you
The,
can't. You have to have a hierarchy.
and the
Otherwise,
discipline that it instilled in you, and the respect you had, and the reliance you had on people. I think there's a lot to be said for national service.
oh yeah.
We used to make all the uniforms in the Thorn factory when I
Yeah,
there. We used to stitch in the crease on the front so that they give
yeah,
a permanent crease in the front of the trousers.
yes.
And I remember we making them, and half the time it didn't matter a damn when you were doing the ordinary Joe soaps ones, what way they were finished. It
Yeah,
didn't matter. Who
and
was going
and
to
the
wear them?
and the hair shorts.
Oh,
Oh my
Jesus.
God!
I think we don't
Oh,
need an army in this country at all. It's an awful
huh?
waste. An awful waste of money. I mean, the wages, some of them are on, some of the top guys, and the pensions they have. That's another thing I ask about. People that are sacked from jobs and can go away and they can still keep their pensions. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, in many companies or organizations, I mean, if you're in there for 20 or 30 years, and you're sacked or you're fired, you do
Yeah.
forfeit. You do forfeit those. You don't keep them. You don't
They
get them.
took me. There's how many people, many civil servants have last. First of all, you never hear of a civil servant being sacked anyway. But
No.
there's been some of them have done terrible damage to this country, and they walked away with these big pensions.
Well, you can talk about a lot of politicians as well who are still in the
Yeah.
law. Some of them who have destroyed the country and the economy. Like for instance, the likes of Bertie Ahern, who's being touted quietly behind the scenes as being maybe a candidate in the next presidential election. Can you imagine him as president? Can you imagine him as president?
Oh, we're an awful
Anyway,
stupid country.
lads,
But
we've
then
come to
people
the
elect these people. It's like the people criticise Fine Gael, they criticise Fianna Fáil, and they still vote for these people. And
so yes.
98% of people don't know how to vote properly. They don't know. There's
What
never
we'll do
been
is
one decision.
we'll go at next week's program. We'll go through the PR system,
Oh, it
the
should be
PR
explained.
system of
People
voting.
don't know. They go in and give Jimmy number one and give number two to someone which is no good to him. They don't know the system the way it works, and that profits all the Fine Gaelers and all the Fianna Fáilers that people are ignorant out there as regards voting, giving people number one and someone number two, and they just don't know how to vote. It's never been explained.
Well, we will give people an idea of what PR voting is like next week in the program. We'll have sample ballot papers up here, and we'll show you how it works. Okay? And
Yeah, but I was at a funeral the other day, and during the eulogy, they were saying about the person that she was entirely Fianna Fáil all her life. Absolutely Fianna Fáil, wouldn't change. She was a woman who never changed. She wasn't for change. So one particular Fine Gael guy used to come to her door all the time, asking her every single year for a vote, and she'd say, "Sorry, I vote Fianna Fáil, and I'm not changing." And he was going to her for about 20 years, every single year. Would you change your mind now? Would you change your mind? No, no, no. And he said, "Okay, will you promise me, if you die before me, that I'll get your funeral?" Because he's a funeral undertaker,
all
and
right.
he when she died, she told her son, "Have it there that if anything happens to me," he got the funeral. He never got her vote, but he got the funeral.
There you are. He got the money. He got the money.
He
And
got
Anyway,
was it paid is the thing?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, you
Undertaker.
can absolutely.
so
You can.
we've come to the end of another program. Tell all your friends about us, lads, and we go through the PR system next Wednesday for you. And don't say you didn't hear here on the panel with Tony, Mary, and myself from another edition, lads. It's been a blast again. Thanks very much for your time, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Press the red button on the right hand side. Good night, folks, and thanks very much.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Bye bye.
This is Rare Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel.